This is a story about the British captain's 38-minute victory. Please subscribe and like, please.
In the heart of East Africa, under the sweltering sun stood the ancient city of Zanzibar, a place steeped in history and rich in culture, but harboring a dangerous secret. The year was 1896 and tensions between Britain and Zanzibar were at an all-time high. The people of Zanzibar, tired of foreign influence, had taken up arms against their British oppressors. Captain John Oliver Reed, a seasoned British officer with piercing blue eyes and a stern jawline, stood before his troops, a mixture of fearlessness and determination etched upon his face. He was no stranger to the heat or the chaos of battle, but as he gazed upon the city that lay before him, he knew this would be no ordinary engagement. "Men," he bellowed above the cacophony of his soldiers' murmurs, "we march on Zanzibar today. The Sultan and his followers have declared war on Her Majesty's empire. We shall bring them to their knees and restore order. Remember, this is not just a battle for victory, but for the safety and prosperity of our people." His words ignited a fire within the hearts of his men, and they charged forward, their rifles at the ready. The battle was fierce, with both sides fighting tooth and nail. But the superior tactics of the British forces soon began to wear down the Zanzibari defenders. As the sun started to set, Captain Reed could see the city gates, in the distance now within their grasp. A cheer rose among the troops as they pushed forward, but then an unexpected voice rang out from the city walls. Captain Reed, a figure called out, waving a white flag aloft. It was the Sultan himself. "We surrender, but I demand that you hear my terms before we lay down our arms." The British troops hesitated, their excitement momentarily dampened by this unexpected turn of events. Reed, however, saw an opportunity to bring this conflict to a swift and decisive end. He signaled for his men to hold their positions and approached the city gates alone. "Sultan Syed Jamshid bin Abdullah," he began, his voice steady and unwavering, "I accept your surrender on behalf of Her Majesty's government. But I cannot make any promises about the terms of this surrender until I have consulted with my superiors in Mombasa." The Sultan's eyes narrowed and he clenched his fists in anger. "You will regret this decision, Captain Reed. You have not yet experienced the full wrath of the Zanzibari people." Reed paid no mind to the Sultan's threats as he turned on his heel and marched back to his troops. But he knew that this was far from over. The real challenge lay in negotiating a fair surrender, one that would quell any lingering resentment and ensure the stability of British rule in Zanzibar. As darkness fell upon the battlefield, Captain Reed and his men set up camp amidst the ruins of the once proud city. The Sultan's words echoed in his mind, a reminder that this was just the beginning. The following morning Captain Reed and a small delegation of British officers were rowed across the harbour to the Sultan's palace. They were met with a scene of chaos. The streets were filled with the sounds of wailing women and the cries of children. The Sultan himself stood before them, his face etched with anger and defiance. "You have invaded my city, Captain Reed. You have taken the lives of my people, and for what? A few worthless trinkets." He spat, his voice dripping with venom. Reed maintained his composure, his eyes locked onto those of the Sultan. "Your people were not killed out of malice or greed, your Highness. They were killed in the heat of battle. I offer you and your people amnesty and the chance to live under British rule peacefully." The Sultan sneered, his anger mounting. "And what if I refuse? What then?" Reed hesitated for a moment before answering. "Then I must ask my superior officers in Mombasa for further instructions. But I would advise against it, your Highness, for the sake of your people and for the sake of peace and stability in this region." The Sultan seemed to ponder Reed's words, his anger gradually giving way to a sense of resignation. "Very well," he said, his voice heavy with defeat. "I agree to your terms, but only on the condition that you allow me to remain as Sultan and that my people are treated fairly." Reed nodded in agreement, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "Your conditions have been noted, your Highness. I will present them to my superiors for their consideration, And so the unexpected turn of events came to an end. Captain John Oliver Reed had led his troops to victory in just 38 minutes, but it was the negotiations that followed that truly tested his leadership. With a new-found respect for each other, Captain Reed and Sultan Syed Jamshid bin Abdullah shook hands, marking the end of the shortest war in British history. But the people of Zanzibar would never forget the unforgettable encounter between their new British ruler and their former sultan. A reminder that even in the midst of conflict there is always a chance for peace and understanding. As Reed and his men sailed back to Mombasa, they looked back at the city of Zanzibar one last time. The sun was setting on this ancient place, casting long shadows upon its streets. But amidst the chaos and the carnage there was a glimmer of hope for a brighter future, and Captain Reed knew that it was up to him and his fellow British officers to ensure that this hope did not fade away. For even in the unluckiest of places there is always the potential for change and growth. The end.